Well, welcome everyone. You are in for a real treat. And I say that with tongue in cheek because we are recording this on Halloween when a lot of you are collecting treats out there. And we're both showing up in our orange blazers today, which I thought was really fun, right? We did not plan this. But we do have very synergistic hearts about what it is that we do to serve people. So Debbie is someone that I met at a recent in-person event a couple of weeks ago, and we got to sit at a table together and really work on the businesses that God has given us. And so, Debbie, I'm excited that you are here with us on Redeem Her Time. Tell us a little bit about you and like what things you're juggling outside of business in this season of life.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, it was great to meet you in person. I love meeting people that way. I mean, this is great technology with Zoom, but there's nothing like that exchange of energy, which is beautiful. I am a wife, 34 years, so I don't know if I'm juggling him, but
He's one of the balls that you've got in your hands. Yes.
yeah, and he's retired actually, which was really a God move in that he owned a building supply company for many years, and then during COVID, in fact, someone came in, a buyer came in, and so he's retired. So he helps me now with my encore business, and so I am a mom. We are parents of four adult children and then three in-laws. So you know. I was busy when they were little, but it continues to be, part of my life that I'm still juggling. And then we have three grandbabies, and I actually have my grandson here this morning. His dad, my son-in-law, dropped him off before school, nice and early, 7:30 a.m. And he spent some time with, they call me Jammy, and my husband
Oh,
Papa. Yeah, my grandson named me that. We thought it was gonna be grandma, and he couldn't say it, so he said Jammy, so it's stuck. So and we were playing with balloons and we were coloring and just had a great time this morning. So I still juggle that. And I actually, my children are spaced years apart. My oldest is 12 years older than my youngest. And so we still have a son at home. And so I'm still a mom in that way, active in his life. And then my church, and then, yeah, my business. So my
yeah,
business, as you know, as an entrepreneur, like all the hats, right? So
right.
I do the sales, I do the content creation still, I do the execution, I do networking. So wearing all the hats. I have a full-time assistant, but she is virtual, but yeah, she works for me full time and helps me a lot with putting things all together, recordings and all of that. So yeah, so definitely juggling a lot of things in terms of work as well. But sometimes the balls fall, and you know that I was ill this week, and when I shut down, my body's just like, you're done, like you're
Yeah,
just gonna sleep
right.
for hours.
Yeah, yeah.
So juggling my own health as I'm into my 50s now, and so that's a different phase in life, so just taking care of my body differently and paying attention to that.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the reminder for all of you young moms out there who think that life is going to get less busy when they grow up and move out of the house. Here's that reminder that, yeah, they grow up, they make adult decisions, they may move away, they may get married, they may have grandkids. Like it looks different. But there's still a lot of different places that your time is going. And that's a good thing, right? It's our lives are filled with good things. And this is why we talk around here about the 8 areas of attention. One of them is our health, one of them is our relationships, one of them is our business, our faith, our friendships, our the way that we steward our finances and our time. The passions that we pursue, because yes, we still should have fun regardless of how many other balls we're juggling, and of course, caring for our dwellings, our homes. And so it is possible to do it all and do it all well. And yes, sometimes you drop some balls. So thank you for that reminder, but it's okay. And yes, so such a full life. And I love that. So tell us a little bit more then about the business side of things. What exactly is it that God has called you to do, and how are you serving others right now?
Well, it's really simple. It's all around vision boards.
Hmm.
So, in fact, some people, kind of stumble over that and they're like, vision boards, you've created a business out of vision boards. And yes, so that's really the umbrella that everything around my business falls under. And so that started in 2017 as merely an idea, like what if? And I was still working full time in my previous career as a childcare director. I ran a multi site, not for profit childcare organization. And I really felt this nudge. So many women now that I am in contact with, I'm like, oh, you had the nudge too? I
Mm,
thought it was just me, but I really had this nudge that God was directing me to sharing my gifts on a bigger and more and different platform. But also as a reminder for women that are listening, it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't have to happen overnight. For some
mhm.
people it does, but I think a lot of times in social media it's portrayed as, just jump out of the airplane, just do it, girl. And it's like, I'm not a big proponent of that. It took me 2 years working in my business as I started it from the ground up, really grassroots. And then 2 years later, I decided to make the jump then and leave and step into it
Mm,
full time. So I was straddling both. I was doing the
mm.
childcare role as a childcare director and then the vision board workshops. So for those of you who don't know what vision boards are, they are a physical board where you have a compilation of images of what it is that you want for your life. We're going to get more into that, but I'm
Yeah.
sure in this conversation, but it's a compilation of images of what it is that you want for your life. So it's future based, future forward facing, but that you invite that feeling into the present.
Mm.
And so I created a studio with my husband at his business, that warehouse that I was talking about that he owned, that
Yeah.
business. And then, yeah, so that really changed things when he sold it. For one, he was retired and he could help me, but also that meant then that my studio now is renting off the new owner. And actually, as of this July, I've let that studio go now, because it was new owners again that bought it. So actually, right when I came home from the conference that you and I were at, it closed.
Okay.
So that has definitely changed the landscape. Um, and yeah, I've added products to my business. I have my own vision board magazine, which is on Amazon. So that now allows me to travel with my vision board experiences. So I offer retreats abroad. I do conferences for people, whereas before I was really more bound to that studio or just wherever I could drive. I live in Ontario, Canada, with my husband's pickup truck. So this has given me a lot more freedom to offer them. And then lastly, in that whole family of services I have under that vision board umbrella, I have an academy. So I train trainers.
Mm.
And so in the last 3.5 years, we now have 45 graduates
Mm.
from 5 different countries. And so I've truly created a legacy business, which is I just am in awe of God's hand in
Right.
this.
You start seeing
And
it like other
oh,
people doing what you're doing, and you realize like this, wow, this is bigger than me. That's what we
oh,
call a with God vision, right? And we're going to get into that in just a minute. I just want to circle back to something I was thinking about when you were talking about your grandson coming this morning, 7:30 a.m., jamming, like, let's play, I'm ready to go, balloons, bubbles, whatever the things where you said, like, so often when we're kids, nobody has to tell us to dream. Nobody has to tell us to have this vision of the future. And we often dress up as, whatever, playing school, playing house, playing astronaut, playing whatever. But like somewhere along the way, I don't know like what happens, but we kind of like, I think, forget how to dream, or maybe we just kind of push that to the wayside because we now have to sit in a chair and sit in a desk and, do certain things. And maybe we catch little glimpses of that, like sitting at a graduation, from high school or from college, or like, having that next thing. But so often, I think we just get caught up in the here and now, just the daily tasks and things like that. So kind of like take us, because here's what I always teach. We make time for what matters, right? So kind
mm,
of like for somebody who has a lot of balls they're juggling, who maybe doesn't feel like they have time to like play, quote unquote, right? Like, what's the value of having a vision for your life, of having a vision board and taking the time to actually go through this process and create this forward facing vision with I love how you said it, with inviting the feeling into the present. Like what does that do for us? And maybe kind of let's start from the side of what happens when we don't have a vision. What happens when we're living like just in the day to day without some kind of vision for where we're going? Let's start on that side. And then how does it change things when we do have an actual visible, thing in front of us that keeps us going in that direction?
well, I love that you've paralleled vision and play because now you're speaking my language. Like I
Oh
said, I spent
yeah.
30 years in childcare and play-based learning is now a thing. the thing, and it wasn't in North America 20 plus years ago. I know it wasn't in the States, it wasn't in Canada, it was in Europe and it was in Australia and New Zealand, but it really wasn't here. And so what's interesting is that play also wasn't valued.
Mm,
Like it was like curriculum based, like it was more inauthentic ways of being. And so I love that you've paralleled play and vision, because what we recognize is children learn best through play
mm,
when they're able to hypothesize, when they are able to be given materials to play with. And so our inner child, like you talked about, that little one that's within us still has that desire to play.
mm,
And so that's why I stepped into vision board so easily, because it is an extension of what I was doing before. And it's giving adults the opportunity to get back to that inner child and allow him or her to play, to have time to play. And just like, so if you are a mom listening to this and you know the value of play for your children versus sitting and doing memorization, rote learning, just memorizing facts versus learning, hypothesizing, doing science experiments, playing in the mud, all those things, that's beneficial for your child. Why wouldn't you give that to yourself?
mm,
So, creating space to create that vision truly is the key to success. If you look at and examine the successful people in the world, none of them are simply doers.
mm,
They are not just in the hustle. They would tell you they are visionaries.
mm,
And so without a vision, the metaphor I like to think about is like a ship. So you are being buffeted by the waves, whatever's coming your way during life, and you're just on, like I was for most of my 30s. My children, I said earlier, I have three older and then a younger one now. Like I had a set of twins when my son was 3. So
mm.
I was like in baby land
Yeah.
for an autopilot for a long time. And I didn't get out of that for many years. And so I was like that ship that it was like, somebody would say something, that would trigger me and I would go this way. And then an event would happen that'd be stressful or, finances or something. And I go this way. And the thing is with the vision, you have a harbor. You
Mm,
don't have a harbor. Your ship is not sailing to a safe harbor. You have no direction.
mm,
So you are just surviving, trying to stay afloat without actually going to a harbor. Now, I will say as well, the vision isn't, once you're in the harbor, it doesn't mean that your ship can't sail again. It's not
right.
like going to be dry docked. It's
Mm,
like, okay, so what's the next vision? Where's the next harbor
mm,
that your ship is going to? But by having that and then having the vision board also as your lighthouse to guide your ship, if we're going to keep with that metaphor, it definitely gives you a course to follow.
yeah, I love this. I was just reading in James yesterday about the person who's tossed back and forth by the wind and the waves, right? And that's the picture I had as you're talking about, like, well, this happened and now I'm over here. And my husband just rode across the Atlantic Ocean just under a year ago. And yeah, he talks about the size of the waves out there. I mean, they were like 60-foot swells that they were in.
Oh,
And, depending on which direction they were coming and which direction they were heading and all of that, they could be literally like rowing in like concrete and going nowhere, or they could be really, catapulted, or they could be flipped over. I mean, there was all kinds of things, but when you're at the mercy of the waves versus I've got a motor and I'm pushing myself, towards this harbor, I love that. And the other scripture that comes to mind is where it talks about like without a vision, the people perish. And yes, I mean, I think about like, yeah, if you're out at sea, right? And for a long time, he could not see land. Like most of like they saw land for like the first day and then they saw land like the last day. So for the 40 days in between then, they didn't see a single bit of land or another boat or a plane or anything like that. And it could be really, it's like but they had their GPS that they had programmed in where the harbor was that they were, going to end in. And so we need that because sometimes we can't see it based on where we are, but we need something that we're directing towards. So I love this, right? Because
I
we're,
do too.
yeah,
I love that you've got such a concrete example, and it also supports you to self-regulate. So I would imagine there would be days that they would be very discouraged with their progress.
mm,
And like when you can't see the land, and you don't know, am I making progress? But like the GPS is your goals as well. Like I'm imagining you would be able to then see how far you've gone, be able to measure it. And even though the vision, the final destination isn't in sight, you know that you're working towards it. And it also gives you that motivation, that inspiration that you can imagine. I'm sure that he probably had this image in his mind of, I don't know if you were waiting for him were you there
I
at when
was.
he
Yep.
the
Yep. We were
finish?
at the
Right.
finish line.
So imagining to hold you again, to celebrate with you, to accomplish that, like having that vision and that feeling would just give you that energy that you need in order to continue to move forward. And that's what the vision board does. It's really that picture of the finish line, so to speak, even though it continues to move. The goalpost continues to move, but that will then motivate you in your daily tasks to keep rowing.
Yeah, I love that because yes, there are days when you feel like, am I just going in circles or am I getting anywhere? But if you don't know where you're going, they say any road will take you there, and so will any wave, right? It's going to take you in whatever direction. So let's talk about, okay, the value of, okay, I can have a vision in my head, Debbie, but why take the time to actually like make this a concrete, physical thing that is in front of me versus, well, I know where I'm going and I've got the picture up in my head. Why the vision board? Because it's not just the vision, it's the vision board that you're really helping them to produce once they get that vision in their head.
Right. Well, this is all tied to science. So, I mean, you can do your research and look this up. It's really so much of this is coming out brand new. Like there is a woman, Dr. Carolyn Leaf. She's a neurologist from South Africa who has worked, her main work was with brain trauma patients, but how it's all tied to neuroscience. So research shows that you are 42% more likely, and I'm going to say the word manifest, and I know sometimes that triggers Christians, but I use it in a word like it's revealed. Things will come to fruition if you prefer me to say that, but that it will manifest, meaning it'll come into fruition if you simply write it down. And so by getting it out of your head. So think about this. Like you have an idea that's so extraordinary, like, wow, when you actually physically write it down, something shifts in your energy because you've taken it out of the thought realm, the dreaming realm, and you've brought it into reality simply by writing it down because now it's in the physical form already just written down. So that's already the very first step for it to actually come to fruition. The next, it increases to 65% if you add images
Oh,
and
wow.
share it with someone. Now, the other caveat to that is sharing it with someone who's as excited about it as you are. So if you have somebody who's a naysayer or is not on your team, don't share it with them because that actually can reduce that. But someone who is as excited about your vision as you are, then sharing it and as well putting it on the vision board because you are raising your vibration in your body, the energy that you feel. Uh, and it actually goes up to 95% more likely for it to come to fruition or manifest if you have accountability.
I
And,
love
the
that.
conference that you and I were at, the group that you're in with your coach, different groups that I'm in, that's the reason. That's the reason why I love surrounding myself with Christian women such as you, who, you can share your vision and then you can share your goals and you can say, how are you doing with that? Not in a judgment kind of way, but in an accountability way. And so, yeah, you're 95% more likely for it to come to fruition.
95%. I mean, that is crazy. And I think I
Yeah.
have statistics that like 8% of people actually reach their goals in a year, right? So like here's where simply writing it down, putting images with it, sharing it, and getting accountability towards it. Now it's not just, I've often heard a dream without a plan is just a wish.
Right.
We can have this picture, we can have this, I'm going to this, but if it's always the someday, one day plan, it's never going to happen. And so I love how science really backs all of this and really helps us to get it out of our head and maybe out of our heart and get it like something concrete that we are actually moving towards. And here's the thing I found in this process that sometimes what I envision, right, is a piece of it, or maybe it's just the first step of it, but like sometimes it actually, grows even bigger as I start getting it down on paper and start putting it into action. Have you found the same to be true?
Absolutely. And when I hand it over to God, the the piece is that it's always bigger and better
Right.
that what actually shows up.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So let's talk about this because here at Redeem Her Time, we talk a lot about the with God life. We talk a lot about building a with God life, building a with God business. The first step that I take people through is a with God vision, right? Like, what is it? And we project 5 years out, and so we go, okay, 5 years out, like, what do you sense God calling you towards, in this? So what difference does that make for us as believers? Because like you said earlier, there are some people, I've heard some Christians say that Christians shouldn't do vision boards. And I disagree because I think this is this creative process that we do with God. Maybe it's the way in which it's being approached, but like when we bring our faith into it and how is it different than just the world doing it with, I have some great idea and I'm going to manifest it, because we hear this all the time and the universe is going to make this happen and all of that. And you and I both know that it's not the universe, it's the God of the universe. And, so like what difference does that make for us to approach this process as Christian women?
Yeah. Well, let me just clarify a couple of things in terms of manifestation. So, I mean, I've alluded to it, but
Mhm.
I do use manifestation because if you think about if you're going to the gym and you're working on growing your muscles,
Mhm.
you will say, I grew my muscles. You don't say, well, God grew my muscles. You did the work, you did the exercise, your muscles grew. And
Mhm.
so that's the way our bodies were designed. And so what we're learning now is about these universal laws that, like laws of cause and effect, laws of vibration, the law of gravity. The law of gravity works every single time. Now I'm going to drop this pen, and if it was heavy, and I accidentally dropped it on my lap, the pen isn't going to go to the side because the law of gravity doesn't have a consciousness. It's not going to say, oh, that's going to hurt Deb. I think I need to like move it over here. No, it's going to work every single time in the exact same way, which is why it's a law.
Mhm.
And as Christians, we get to access those laws, but so do non-Christians. So I
Mhm.
think there's also this danger with prosperity gospel to say, well, Christians, when you access this, because you're a Christian, you're going to receive prosperity. It's common grace. God has given and created this world with common grace where we all have access to the sun and
Mhm.
sunshine. We all have access to the rain, whether we're wicked or whether we're holy
Mhm.
and Christians and transformed, we have access to that. And that's how I see these universal laws as well. Now, the difference as well is that we know who to give the glory to. So because we don't give the glory to the universal law itself to say, oh, thank you, universe, for this. No,
Mhm.
the universe doesn't have a consciousness. God does. And so his plan is always perfect. But we get to, just like going to the gym to have a healthier body, we know what we need to do. Well, we get to do the same with these universal laws. So with God, where I like to have people start, and I think the difference as well with the way that we do the vision board at Dare to Declare is most people do a vision board with these three words in mind: have, do, and be.
Mhm.
So what do I want to have? So that's where it becomes very materialistic. So even non-Christians, people will say, I don't want to do a vision board. That's so materialistic.
Mhm.
Well, it's how you use the tool. I mean, just like money, Christians wouldn't say, well, I hate money. Like money is a tool that can be used for good. Same thing with the vision board. So most people, if they're doing it around materialism, it's around the have, and then they get to the doing, which is like, I'm going to hustle and make this happen. And then, as you alluded to, someday I'll be happy.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, when we do a vision board with God, and the way that I offer it is also it's flipping that on its head. Who
Mhm.
do I get to be?
Mhm.
So I'm saved through the blood of Jesus. I'm transformed. And so that version of me, and I actually encourage my clients to all put an image of themselves in a prominent place because that vision of me living a sanctified life, that's going to permeate all of those areas you talked about. I do 7. I love that you've got 8 areas. And so that's going to be evident in all of those areas on my vision board. So who do I get to be? The version that is saved through Jesus.
Mm.
And then what do I get to do, which are the goals,
Mm-hmm.
which is those daily acts, which going back to your husband's, that rowing, continue to row, to continue to be in action. And then the have, I get to leave that up to God.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm in his service, when I am responsible about my daily focus and praying, being in his word and listening for direction from him about what's next, then what's received is, as I said earlier, is always bigger and better than I expected.
Yeah, it's the with God, there is always an abundant ROI. And like you said earlier, it's not a prosperity gospel thing. It's just how God works, right? And when it's done with him, it's always bigger and better than we expected and sometimes different. And that's okay, too. So I love how you flip this on its head. This is the same thing I'm doing with time. It's the untime management. It's flipping the way we approach it, and so focusing on the identity of the who you are in him. And then what am I doing? I was just in James 2 today, because as you can tell, I'm reading through James right now. And James 2 talks about faith plus works, right? It's not just the I'm saved, but it's like that true faith is going to result in obedient action, which is going to result in, fruit, of that, right? An outcome, an ROI, as we call it around here. So I love this process. And thank you for taking that time to really walk us through that, because I think sometimes it's like, yes, like we've heard things about, oh, be careful of manifest, or be careful of vision boards, or be careful of whatever. And you're right. It's like, this is something that is accessible to all of us. It's how am I approaching this, and how am I doing this with God versus this is all on me, or this is the universe doing this. So I love that. So thank you for that. And giving us that perspective. So okay, I think we've built up the value of why this is important, why I would want to do this for my life, for my business, really having that future focus of where I'm going, and bringing it into the now. So how do we get started in something like this? Because this can be like a really overwhelming thing. Like, do we just start, grabbing out, like pretend like we're back in preschool, we grab the scissors and the glue, a stick, and it's a bunch of magazines, and just start, cutting stuff out. Like, take us maybe kind of through a couple steps to, like, how do we start actually getting this onto a tangible, visible place?
Well, first and foremost, I love that you focus on time, because you need to decide that you're going to do this
Mm.
and then not be like so many women that I know, including myself, and multitask.
Mm.
So carve out time. This is one of the most important tasks of your year,
Mhm.
and it will have the highest return on your
Mm.
investment of doing this. And if you want, gather some girlfriends to do it, but dedicate so that you've got accountability. So dedicate some time. Now my process takes about 6 hours in total. But I call it the new spa day. Like if
Mm.
you were going to take a day away with your girlfriends to go to a spa, I mean, it would be at least an afternoon or longer to do that. And this is going to have such much longer lasting effects than the spa day. So that would be the first, is set aside time that's uninterrupted, and that you're not just cramming yourself into a space, but that it's spacious. I know some ladies have, rented an Airbnb. Um, you know, I have an online course that you do it with my magazine. So you could do it with a group of girlfriends. But yeah, so that would be the first. The next is, as I alluded to, magazines. So you can get those, not because people sometimes stop and they're like, oh, they're so expensive, and they have gotten pricey. So I would go to secondhand stores,
Mm.
and also involve your community. So if you're a business person, you might get some interest even just to say, I'm going to be creating a vision board and I'm looking for magazines. People
Mm.
love to help. If you say, help, I'm looking for magazines, you'd be surprised how many people will come to your aid and give you images and magazines. As I said, you certainly could purchase mine. It's on Amazon. So you want to get the materials. Then you said something that perked up my ears, and it gets my feathers ruffled a little bit, is collage. You didn't
Mm.
say the word collage, but that's what the image
Yeah,
came to
yeah. The
think.
glue sticks and scissors is like, oh, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
put a bunch of stuff on here and
So here's some mistakes. I'll kind of do some rapid fire mistakes people make. Is that okay?
yeah, please do.
Okay. So I'm anti-collage. And the reason being is that as a Christian, we know how God created this world. It was with order.
Mm.
And, he did it in 7 days and he created it. I mean, with the pandemic, when we as humans stayed in our homes and stopped messing up nature, I mean, so many things went back to the way that they're supposed to be, like, because that's the way God created it. So you don't want to emulate chaos on your vision board, which is what collage is. I don't know where this idea got started, but if you look at Pinterest, most of them are just a mass of photos. The whole idea, and if you want to promote the science behind the vision boards, is focus. So you want to have images where there is some white space or where your eye has a place to rest. So imagine a book. If it had no margins and no chapters, you would put that down really quickly and be like, I don't even know where this begins and ends, and ugh. Or a mannequin window, like of all mannequins. I actually had a client, she said that was her uncle's job, was to dress windows. And that's exactly what the premise was, is that they had space between them. So each outfit really showed off its best. So don't do collage. Make sure you've got space in between. Have large images versus lots of small ones. The whole idea is that you are then very intentional around the choices that you're making, and that you're not just hoping that you're throwing spaghetti at the wall and something sticks. Okay, I'll put as much on there as possible and just hope something manifests. There's other reasons to that as well. Another big mistake I see people making is they put on the board what they don't want
Oh,
versus what they want.
okay.
So they'll put it as a reminder. Oh, I don't want this.
Mm.
Well, with the way our brain works, it takes in what we're telling it. So even if we're saying we don't want it, we're focused on it. So we're going to attract, this is where the law of attraction comes in. We're going to attract more of that. So you want to have it be what you want, which is the future version, and versus what you don't want. Two more things. Money. Don't put money on your board.
Mm.
We don't decorate our house with stacks of money,
Right.
right? Unless you're Scrooge McDuck,
Yeah.
just is like, yay, in the silo with all of his money. So the money is the how. The money isn't the harbor. It is the passageway through. It is a goal. So okay, I'll throw out another freebie in. The vision, what you want to put on your board, is bigger than you.
Mm.
If you can accomplish it, doesn't belong to your vision board. It's a goal.
Mm.
And this is what makes a vision board, the way that we do it, sometimes scary. And people that have showed up in a corporate setting, they're like, I didn't know we signed up for this. We just thought it was arts and crafts.
Right.
Like, what? I got to dream really big and I got to put things on here that I have no idea how this is going to happen. Yes. So that's where we have a superpower as Christians, because we know that all things are possible with God.
Mm.
So we get to put that on the board. So and then yeah, so those are, I was gonna give you one more thing. Oh, don't, as business people, here's another one. Another mistake people make is don't just focus on business.
Mm.
So you are, as we talked about, juggling and have all these beautiful areas in your life, and how we do something somewhere is
Mm.
how we do it everywhere.
Mm.
So you want to have that image of yourself with all of the life areas covered around what is it, the vision that you want. Because if your relationships are thriving, then that's going to impact your business. And if your spiritual life is thriving, that's going to impact your relationships. Like, it's all interconnected. So don't just make a business board.
Mm.
Again, that gets back into that left brain and not into that visionary right brain where we want to stay, which is creative and it has all the areas covered.
Yeah, I love this. I love this. And and this so ties in with what I teach in the With God framework, which is also in the planner, is having a vision for each of those areas. And then yes, you can zero in on the business and really get more specific in there, or zero in on, an area that you want to really focus on, like health or relationships or things like that. But I love the vision, including all of them, such that we are whole people, right? We aren't just all these compartments. Especially as women, I've often heard us described as like the multiple tabs open on our computer. We've
Yeah.
got all these things going at one time. which is a whole nother conversation about multitasking that we're not going to get into. But yeah, such that, one thing does affect the other. And so I love all of that, together there. And yeah, and thank you for those reminders, especially the one about it should be something that we don't know how to do. And I talk about in the course that comes with the planner, I talk about A goals, B goals, and C goals. A goals are the goals you've already done before. So it's just a matter of you deciding and doing it, like running a mile. We all ran a mile in PE. You can do it if you really want to. Just pick a day and put on your shoes and go do it. A B goal would be like maybe you've only ever run that mile in PE class and you're going to run a 5K. We just hosted a 5K here at the Figgy Farm last weekend. And yeah, for some people, I've never run 3.1 miles before, but okay, if I can run 1 mile, I'm certain I can just do it long enough to get to that. So it's very like, okay, I can make this happen. But those C goals, those challenging goals are like I'm going to run a marathon and I've only ever run a mile, or I'm going to run an ultra marathon. And you're like, what in the world am I thinking? I don't even know how I would do that. But the beautiful thing about those kinds of things is you become that kind of person on your way to that place, right? And so that's what I'm hearing you say is like a vision is not just, oh yeah, I can just reach a little further and get right there, but it's like I'm becoming this person in this area and who God is calling me to be. That's the kind of person who can do that. And that's the growth that we're looking for, right?
Absolutely. I was on a coaching call yesterday and she said about taking before and afters. And I was
Mm,
like, I need to do that. I need to take some before and after photos of people that just start. And then I actually ran into a woman last summer at a wedding and she's like, hi, Deb, remember me? I don't know if you've ever had that. And I'm like, like out of place. I really
right.
don't remember. But the reason I didn't remember was because she was so radically different. And she even admitted that. She's like, I didn't think you would. She said, I've released weight. I got a new job. She actually left a toxic relationship.
Mm,
She looked fabulous. And like, I didn't even recognize her, like just completely transformed. She's like, it's because of my vision board and I just got focused. And yeah, so
what a
it
great
it radically
testimony.
transforms.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's who you're becoming in the process, right?
absolutely. I love
Okay.
that your work and my work has such great synergy and how the vision board, then your piece, it really sounds like would be where people can really measure and get into the action
Mm-hmm.
and track and into the really work with your planner. I love that.
Yeah, and that's why I'm about to share in just a minute what we're going to partner or do together here pretty soon. But before we get to that, you mentioned this, and this ties into the next question I have for you. You talked about the fact that the first step you gave us was carving out the time. And you
Mm,
said, I quote in some way, shape, or form, that this is going to essentially be the best use of time, right? Like, yes, it may be 6 hours, or even if it's only, 2 hours or an hour, whatever that time is, like that tell us why. Like, why is this going to have the highest ROI, that return on investment of our time, when we do have a bazillion other things that we could and should be doing? Like how does this affect our time? How does this affect our ROI? And then what ripple effect does this have in our life and our business? I mean, you've alluded to it, but I want to really make sure we nail this.
sure. So take a look at where you're at now. And the results that you're getting right now is decisions that you made a year ago,
Mm,
based on the decisions you made a year ago. So if you want different results from what you're having right now, whether you want growth, whether you want radically different, like a quantum leap, different results, that's going to take a new way of being.
mm, mm,
And so that's where taking the time to discover, who do I get to be? The daughter of the king, the
mm,
purpose he's placed on my heart. What does that look like in my life? But more importantly, how does that feel? And give yourself the time to give that full attention to that task, to
mm.
yourself. And that's going to feel very stretchy, because if you are a woman, you've been taking care of others. I put money on it.
Right.
And so treat this as though you're treating, you've probably heard that it's cliche, but as though you're treating your best friend.
Mm,
So you would do this for your best friend if she came to you and said,
mm,
I don't like my life anymore, my results. I'm just unhappy with my whatever that is. Or, it's been okay. It's been mediocre.
but I feel like I'm meant for something more,
Mm,
you would say, okay, I can help you. Or like if she's, help carve out that time to do that. So give
mm.
yourself the gift of time.
I love that. It is. It is a gift. And when we keep putting it off, it's not just going to show up magically one day, and it is going to affect where we end up. So we want to make sure that we make time for that. So I love that. And what I heard you say, my next question is what I heard you just give a piece of advice, and that is to treat this like it's your best friend and how you would care for her. So my last question for you is just around this idea of, okay, for that woman who's listening, who's either A, forgotten how to dream or just doesn't feel like she has time for it, like how does she, like what would be your word of encouragement to her to dream and to get it down in a visible, tangible form such that, right, that dream becomes a reality?
Well, actually, can we share what we're up to in December?
Yes, I would love to.
Okay. So if you have forgotten, and many adults have, men and women, because you've been busy taking care of others, start with gratitude.
Mm.
So Anne Voskamp, she's a Canadian author.
I love her.
Lovely. Yeah. She has a book around that. It's
A
called
thousand
100
gifts.
or 1,000. Okay.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. But that's where you can begin, is simply beginning your day with gratitude.
Mm.
You can grow that muscle of gratitude by first looking back to what you're grateful for,
Mm.
then getting present to what you're grateful for in the moment. But radical gratitude is looking forward to your day and being grateful for what has not yet even occurred.
Mm.
So that's
I
really
love
where
that.
trust and belief is like, Lord, I'm grateful for, you know, being able to be here on this podcast, and already having that visionary idea of, and of course this is big, this is better. Like at least like, I knew this was gonna be awesome, but this has just been an amazing conversation.
Yeah.
So that's where you can, with your mindset, is begin with gratitude. But if you are like, I want to do something really practical, start with a single word. So we're really excited that we're going to be able to work together. It's December the 18th.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to guide Lisa's group through this power word experience.
Mm.
It's creating a word for your year.
Mm.
And it's a single word. And what we know from scripture is that there is so much power
Mm-hmm.
in the spoken word. The name of my company is Dare to Declare, declare your word. We also have heard about the neuroscience, about how our words and our thoughts can physically change our brain. And so I'll guide you through 90 minutes of defining, getting really clear on what that word might be for 2025. And it's a really beautiful way to help you self-regulate. And if you've got little ones, you know what I'm talking about, where, they're like a thermostat. Sometimes they can go really hot, sometimes they can go really cold, fight or flight, but so can we as adults. And that little inner child, if we haven't done this work, can certainly fly off the handle or just go and hide under the covers. And so this word is going to support you, that when you have challenges, whether you're stuck in traffic, supper burns, the boss is angry, things fly off the rails, that you can remember and reset your mindset with this word. So
Mm.
mine is this. This is mine for the
Mm.
year, is ease.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and this visible thing. So if you guys are able to see on YouTube, and those of you on the podcast, we'll make sure we post a picture of this. She's got her word in the middle. There's white space around it. I love that. And she's got some images that go with it. And then what a beautiful reminder to stick on your desk, or to stick on your dresser or stick wherever it is that you need to be reined back in, like you talked about, right? And be reminded of this is where God's growing me and this is what I'm focusing on. So right now you may be wondering, how do I get in on this thing that Debbi is doing with Lissa? So I'm just going to give you guys a little sneak peek. If you haven't heard yet, I am going to be doing another one of our multi-day CEO events in early December. It'll be the second week of December. And what I'm going to do is I will be opening up opportunities for people to come into the CEO program. And so anyone who's already currently a part of my CEO program or who joins us between now and through that event will get an exclusive invitation to this 90-minute session where Debbi is going to walk us through. And not only you're going to come out knowing your word, you're going to come out like having this visual representation of it, which is going to be really powerful. So I'm really excited. And that's why I wanted to bring Debbi on before we even get to that CEO event that's happening so that you can start thinking about this, because this one thing, right? Imagine the impact that this can have on what 2025 looks like. And then you start developing this practice of every year creating, your word, creating your vision board, and looking at all 8 areas that we talk about: your faith walk, your family relationships, your friendships, your service, which is your business, your ministry, your work, your stewardship of time and resources, your wellness, your passions, having fun. I was going to tell you, Debbi, when you were talking about play and stuff like that, when I ask women, we look at the 8 areas and I have them take the assessment. Usually, like most of the time, I would say hands down, it's passions. It's that area of fun. It's the area of what are the things that light us up, that are enjoyable, that are connecting with, like hobbies or nature or things like that, that we're just not making time for. And yet it's so life-giving. And so I love that you gave us that reminder. Anyway, the last area is dwelling, because let's be honest, our home requires a lot of our time and attention. And so when we have this vision with God of what these things, not only what could this look like, right? And who could I be, in these areas of my life? But then also we have a plan with the accountability to get us there. It's like, girl, we're going to be those 95%ers, and not the rest of people who just say something on New Year's and, oh, yep, I'm doing this year. And then we know how that goes. It doesn't get very far. So I'm so glad that you came. I'm so glad we're doing this in December. But even now, just so you guys know, if you are a regular listener, you already know this conversation is not done. Okay. I feel like we scratch the surface on the podcast. And that's why I always bring our guest into the Redeem Her Time community. And I invite you as a listener, come join us in there. Come let's have conversation around this area of having a vision and creating a vision board. And I would love for you to share. Here's going to be our question. What's one thing that you would love to see happen in the next year? Put that down in the community. Let's start creating this vision even before our event in December, even before we get into the holidays. We're tempted to get heads down with our, to-do list and things like that. Let's start getting into that dreaming with God. And what is it that He is calling us towards in 2025, and start putting that out there for accountability's sake, right? And for getting out of our head and down there. So I'm inviting all of you guys, including Debbi, into the Redeem Her Time community. If you're not already a member, I always ask, what are you waiting for, girl? We are building this community off social, and it's a bunch of Christian women, most of us with businesses, who just want to be faithful stewards of our time. And you can find us at redeemhertime.com/community. Of course, I will link it in the show notes. And Debbi, you mentioned having a vision board magazine that we can find on Amazon. So give us a quick little plug for what that is and what it's called. And we will link to that in the show notes as well, because I think having, it's one thing if you have the random magazines, and who knows, it might be your husband's that aren't going to have pictures or words you want. Yours is beautiful. Look at this, you guys.
Yeah, it's based on the thousands of clients that I've worked with. So it is, it's definitely got images in there that you're going to find that you're going to want to add to your vision board. It's on Amazon. It's $19.99. So very economical. And then at the back, it actually has a QR code for the course. So I did at one point sell that course for over $500. So, I mean, this is such an amazing value. You're going to want to take advantage of that. So it's the Dare to Declare Vision Board magazine.
Okay, perfect. And then we will make sure that, we link directly to that so that everyone can find that. And what a great resource. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to have you in the community, and then for us to do this event together in December. So if you want to be part of that event, you don't have to wait till we do this, till we do our CEO event in early December. You can reach out to me and say, Lissa, I want to be a CEO, and I want to have the system and the support to really be a good steward of my time and see the growth, see these visions happen in my business as well as in these areas of my life. So just reach out to me with the word CEO, and we'll have a conversation about what that looks like. So thank you, Debbi. You have blessed me, and I know my audience so much today. So I appreciate your time, and glad that God allowed our paths to cross. And I know this is going to have a ripple effect as people hear this. So here's my plug. If you are listening to this and you've got a business bestie, share this out, right? Like women, we need to have permission and direction to dream again and to dream again with God and to then get it down in a tangible form and then to have opportunities and communities to share it in so that we can see those things become a reality. Because ultimately it's about glorifying Him, right? When those things happen. So thank you so much, Debbi, for your time today. I always love to end with this question, and that is, what is your ROI why? Like when you think about like, why do you want to grow the impact of your time? What is that for you?
Yeah, so I'll give you what my purpose is. My vision, as I said, that Harbor continues to morph and change, but my why doesn't change. And my why is to glorify God by expanding my life through gratitude so that I help others joyfully expand theirs.
So beautiful. And you've done that today. So thank you. And I know you're going to do that again as we partner together over the next couple months. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. We will see you over inside the Redeem Her Time community and be watching for registration coming soon to be able to join us for the CEO event and then possibly get an invitation to do this workshop with Debbi and I. So thank you so much, Debbi. Appreciate you.